strongly that some cutting, to streamline the narrative and lighten some sections that went on past the point, was in order. So the unfinished novel you are about to hear is Larry Brown's first draft manuscript with editorial cuts that I hope improve the flow and that I believe he would have accepted pretty readily. A Miracle of Catfish is still a very long novel, albeit an unfinished one. If you do have the opportunity to compare it with the manuscript now available to students of Brown's work in the Department of Archives and Special Collections of the J.D. Williams Library at the University of Mississippi in Oxford, and you take issue with the cuts, I am certainly willing to share my reasons for them. I would, in fact, be happy to explain myself as I would have had to explain myself to Larry Brown had he lived to finish the work. For me, and I hope for you, it doesn't really matter that A Miracle of Catfish wasn't quite completed. What he meant to say is as clear as can be. And now, A Miracle of Catfish.
Chapter 1. The blessed shade lived on the ridge. The white oaks stood with their green tops hanging thick under the sun, and a big old man in faded blue overalls walked in the June heat beneath them. He crunched lightly, ankles deep in dry brown leaves, feet wary for copperheads the same color. He was mopping at the sweat on his brow with his forearm, and he was holding his hand out to bash at the webs of spiders that hung in his path. There was a glade carpeted with lush beds of poison ivy, quiet gardens, no place for a nap. A fox squirrel went up a tree and flowed his tail like water over a limb, and then lay down on top of it, his legs hanging, his head low to the limb. An unseen little buddy. An old white-faced boar squirrel with a nut sack that laid out behind him like 2 pecans in a bag. A breeze lifted and blew a cool wind that for a moment stirred his eyelashes. He twitched his party-colored nose. He probably appreciated the breeze in some squirrel way. The old man looked around. There were 2 sloping walls of trees, a natural place to build a pond. Cortez Sharp could see it plain as day. He'd been seeing it for a while. He wondered if Lucinda would want to take that retard fishing after he got the pond built. And some catfish in it. Of course, it'd take a while to get them up to eating size. Not a year, probably. He didn't think it took them that long to get them up to eating size at the catfish farms down in the Delta. He'd go buy some catfish feed at the co-op. He'd seen it before, in the stifling heat of the tin-roofed warehouse, stacked in 50-pound bags on pallets beside fertilizer and seed. Each bag had a picture of a catfish on it. He saw one of those boys who worked in the co-op's warehouse kill a big woodchuck in there with a shovel one day, and then he stretched it out bloody on a pallet with its stained yellow buck teeth showing, and Cortez didn't think woodchucks even lived in Mississippi. Was a woodchuck a groundhog? What was that thing about if a woodchuck could chuck wood? Probably came in on a load of feed from somewhere up north. Maybe late in the evenings when it was cooling off, he could do it. Throw it out there on the water like raindrops. He'd have a special bucket just for that, or maybe a steel garbage can, have a lid for it, keep the fire ants out of it. He wondered if that retard of hers even knew how to fish. He wondered how big the fish would get if he just kept on feeding them instead of catching and eating them. He could catch and eat a few of them, just not all of them. Leave a few in there to see how big they'd get. What if they got to weighing 10 pounds? If he kept feeding them and they kept growing, they would. What if they got to weighing 20? What if they got up to 30? What would that feel like on a rod and reel? He might have to go get a new one. They might break his old one. Shit fire, they might break a new one. Wouldn't that be something? What if they got so big they were uncatchable? How fun would that be? Standing there in the baking woods, he looked around again. Why did she want him? What good was he? Cortez just...